they will now lower the limit of property value where foreigners are allowed to purchase. Back then, foreigners are only allowed to buy properties that are 1 million and above, to prevent any sort of potential speculation of properties that are of lower value. Well, that was the era whereby our property prices were so crazy that you hear people buying some condos in Sungai Long for prices like 600,000 ringgit. Alright, that time everybody was rushing in to snap up a property just in case it went higher, you know. And then so there was this ruling, right? Yeah, it has always been this ruling. So recently the government announced that they're going to reduce that limitation to properties that are at least 600,000 ringgit, and it's built units, if I'm not wrong. Okay, I didn't study too much into it, but from what I heard, it's only wow, how many people running the red lights? Properties that are fully built. Okay, and I hear a lot of people complaining. It's like, oh, you're not helping locals, but you're helping foreigners, blah 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 blah. Now, first of all, of course, these people who complain mostly are people who find it difficult to buy properties. Maybe they haven't bought one. Secondly, are also people who don't really understand the whole situation, and they just complain for the sake of complaining, you know, saying that the government introduced something that helps foreigners. Okay, let's try and reverse a little bit. All right, let's pull back 10 years ago. In 2008, we have a new prime minister, right? And that time there's all these big talks about growing the economy and blah 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 blah, a lot of ideas, this and that, whatever hub. But the best shortcut to grow a country's economy that they took, was to completely let loose, you know, of the property sector, be it from a banking perspective, Bank Negara, or from whatever perspective. Everywhere developers were quickly snapping up land to build properties, to sell them, and the whole market was filled with hot money. Right? If you bought a condo back in 2008 for 230,000, you could have sell it in 2013 or 14 for 550,000 ringgit. They double up, right? That whole period, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, we felt so rich in Malaysia. Why? Because there was a sudden wealth creation. Take note on this word, wealth creation, because of the upward trajectory of our property prices, right? You bought it at 250,000. All you know, 1 year later, people are transacting at 350,000. You made 100k in 1 year for no reason, and then another year you made another 100k, right? So there were a lot of people who refinance their house. There are people who sell their property, earn the money, and then maybe buy something else. There are a lot of buying and selling going on, and the valuation, the rising valuation of the prices in general, created a lot of wealth. There was a lot of money in the market. People made money from properties. They come out, they buy cars, they buy clothes, they buy jewelry, they buy watches, they spend in shopping malls, right? It was like a fantastic time. However, little did we know, the good scene that we had back in 2008 to 2013, let's say, Malaysia doesn't really have any developments, in the sense that it's not as if we have a new policy of attracting makers of electronics, you know, or or we built an education hub and a lot of African students came into Malaysia, or we built some new investment opportunities for other industries to come into Malaysia and build up. As I give you an example, I don't know how many years was that ago where Penang was decided to be the Silicon Valley, you know, of ASEAN, and then we attracted a lot of companies to Penang to build factories to export semiconductor goods out of Penang. So that is real development. That is actual real development, where you have factories producing goods, adding values. You know, it's not as if from 2008 to 2013 Malaysia has some scientific breakthrough on how to use palm oil, right? Where we built huge facilities to make use of the raw materials that we always export to other countries to actually make them here, right? None. Have we had any breakthroughs in terms of other industries from 2008 until 2013? Not a lot. Nothing much actually. So the whole good times that we felt during that period all came from property valuation, land valuation, alright? So the whole market was very buoyant and a lot of people made a lot of hot money, and hence developers all jump in. Everybody wants to be a developer. Everybody tries their best to snap up a 2-acre land and start, you know, building stuff like shop lot, parking, swimming pool, and 2 blocks of condominiums up there, and buyers will actually quickly snap it up, you know, things like that. That was a hot period of time. So when this happens, do remember we are a democracy. We practice a sort of like a free market. So when the government has land to be auctioned or bid for developers to develop, the government has to act in the best interest of people, because government represent people, right? You cannot have some underhand deal and sell land at below market value. Yes, we heard of that. All right, so you can't do that as a government, because you have to act in the best interest of consumers. So when the market is very buoyant, when the government has a piece of land to let developers bid, they are willing to pay high prices, right? The highest bidder wins. That's fair, right? Fair economy talk. So if the developers believe that the market is able to absorb what they will finally build, then they are willing to outbid each other until a certain threshold whereby, nah, I don't think I'm gonna offer a higher price because I might not be able to make money after that. Then they won't. See, this is free market economy. So if the land price, because of all this fighting, becomes higher, you cannot say that the government is intentionally selling the price high to not help Malaysians, because at the end of the day, they are acting in the best interest of Malaysians. Moreover, this is a very good policy from the Barisan Nasional government back then. Okay, every developer, when they develop a new place, they must allocate a piece of land and actually build money-losing projects for the low-income group. They have to build low-cost houses within the land that they build. There is a certain quota, I don't know the actual quota, okay? They must do that. Malaysia actually has this law, which is very, very good. It takes care of the low-income group. So don't say that the government never took care of low-income group, right? So when they develop, they have to do that. Of course, there weren't much control, because the government sort of want them to build houses that are for sale for 40,000 or 50,000 ringgit, which is a very old threshold, right? Why? These buggers who spend 40,000 to buy a low-cost house would have spent 45,000 to buy a high-spec Axia, which is nonsense, right? So the result of that 40,000 low-cost house is, how do they look like? They look crap, alright? You can't even say there's any design going on there, right? It's cheaply built, you know, cheaply designed and all that, and that resulted in something that is not very good, whereby there is no secondary market for those low-cost houses. Meaning, even though you manage to buy a house low cost, you wouldn't be able to enjoy the wealth creation that by right a property should bring you over time. Because if those low-cost houses were slightly better built, at least they look desirable, like those built by the Singaporean Housing Board, HDB, right? Government housing, yes, but they are desirable. When they are desirable, it means the value will go up over time. And when the value goes up, those people who stay in there, they bought them when they have to buy low-cost housing. It creates wealth for them. It's wealth accumulation. They come out from their low-income zone. They became owners of property that has value, right? So we have to understand this concept now. Wealth creation coming from the valuation of property, right? The increase in value of properties actually help people in a way, all right? So I hear a lot of people saying that, oh, I've been hoping for the property market to crash so that I get to buy property. That is a very, very naive concept, right? Because you might not have bought property, right? Maybe your current employer, your boss, have bought a few. Now, I don't own properties, okay? I myself is someone who do not believe in buying a lot of properties to keep them and to make money off it. I am very low interest in that, all right? I'd rather do what I like, and so I'm a very different example. Even though what I'm talking here, I understand those people who do this, doesn't mean I am someone who does that, okay? So if, let's say, you now have a job, right? Small company, your boss is a decent, you know, you guys work together, and your boss have bought 2 houses, right? One for their own stay, one to rent, let's say. Then you were hoping for the property prices to crash so that you can buy them cheap. So next month, you know, property prices crash, and then your boss went into bankrupt, and then you lost your job. So you have to understand this. Property is just like share market as well, okay? If the share market crashes, don't even think that you as a normal person who's not a rich, super rich dude will benefit of it. You will not benefit of it, because the chain reaction will come so fast and sweep you along, you wouldn't even have time to get your loan to be approved if the property prices crash. When all these big market crashes happen, only the super rich has the resilience to tahan that and snap up things. So when property prices crash, don't worry, you won't even have chance to buy it. It will be the tycoons that will be snapping them up one shot in the free market economy. All right, so are there not cheap houses to buy in Malaysia? There are. And the policy of letting foreigners to buy up 600k and above property, let me explain why. All these wealth creation over the years, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, it was really slowing down, right? And when it slowed down, you will notice that new launch properties are no longer around the 600, 700k mark. They announced new property launch 388, 450. Is that not a lowering of property prices? That is already it, right? So of course, those that were built earlier on, those people who bought them, they try their best to hold it. They hold it at their value. Difficult, but they try and hold it, right? But the new launch properties, they are no longer at the kind of valuation. Now, why the government wants to allow foreigners to buy up fully built units that are 600k and above? It's trying to help us. Yes, they are trying to help us, because whose money it is that was locked into those property back then is ours, is Malaysians. So if we can get outsiders to come in and snap up our properties of those values, it releases the money back into the market. Malaysians will have a better economic flow. Now our money is sort of stuck. A lot of it is stuck because, as I mentioned, the past 10 years we didn't really do anything apart from speculating on properties. So I urge Malaysians to actually understand more. I'm not a property expert, okay, but at least I understand a little bit of the fundamentals of what is all this about, you know. And it's sad to hear people just jump on it and say, oh, even educated people, you know, just jump on it and say, oh, you're doing a policy to help outsiders. Do you think that the government is stupid? Oh, let's help some honkies and not help Malaysians. No, try and understand why. Yep, that's what I want to say. So I'm so happy the last round where the Najib government instead of letting property prices go down, they just let the ringgit slide. It's not, of course, it's not all decided by them, but the ringgit sliding down in value back then already helped our property market cushion what would have been a more stark blow, right? You have wealth. You have to understand, money is an IOU. Money doesn't mean anything. Wealth can be in the form of money, or wealth can be in the form of gold, or wealth can be in the form of property, right? When your wealth shrank, you have to pick either one of the things that you hedge upon to readjust its value, right? Imagine for the past 10 years, all Malaysians' money has been put into property. Imagine if that round property dropped instead of ringgit drop. It would trigger a panic. When it triggers a panic, there will be what we call a wealth destruction. That means a vaporization of your wealth. Let's say you bought a Volkswagen, 140,000 ringgit, right? The gearbox fucked up, everybody's gearbox fucked up, and the car's value is now 80,000. You just wiped off the wealth of your own car. Of course, not your fault, but if you hold on to your car, if all Volkswagen owners, despite the mechatronic issues, hold on to your cars and not sell them, the market will still be stable. But when you guys panic, run to the used car dealer and complain about your car's stupid gearbox and you want to sell it, and then the dealer was like, this guy is desperate in selling his car. It's a free market, he can offer whatever price. And then he start offering you stuffs like, I think this car is now worth 45,000. They're like, fuck, I lost 100k in 2 years. No. If you say no and then you go home, your car's value will still be there. But when you say no and then you say yes, right, you agree, because you have this fear that it might go even lower. When you agree 45,000 for your car, your other friends also agree 45,000. What will happen? The whole market value will come down to that, and this difference is the vaporization of your value. Same goes with house, same goes with everything. So a market will only be good when it's stable, and we all try our best to work hard. And the thing is, it's not like there's no 300k property to buy. There's low cost housing, there's Rumah Whip, there's a lot of other stuffs going on. You know, just don't harbor that vengeful thinking, you know, that I hope those people who bought properties last time, I hope they fucked up, you know, property prices go down so they all get fucked. That's a very bad thought and very shallow, because he will come back and sweep you. And if you're at that level, because since you harbor so much anger, right, when the economic downturn, the wave comes, you'll be the first one that gets swept away. Don't pray that happen, man. Seriously, I'm very happy that at least our government was doing the right thing earlier on, you know, allow the ringgit to just slide its course. Those who would lost money are those who would sell their property back to the local market and convert it back to their foreign currency and go home. Those are the people who lost money. Seriously, imagine you took 1 million USD and then you change to ringgit, you get 3 million ringgit back then, and then you have your super luxurious bungalow, and then after the market slow down, you sell your property, right, at the same value. Oh, I sell it at 3 million as well. I don't think I made any losses, right? You sell your bungalow back at 3 million, and then you convert back to US dollar, which is 4 ringgit that time, you already lost 25% if you attempt to bring that money back to US. But for a local Malaysian, no. We buy at 300k. After a few years, even though ringgit slide, we still sell to another Malaysian at 300k. We didn't make much losses. We didn't get panicked. That was a good move. This round, I hope the government attract more foreigners to Malaysia to buy our properties, unlock the value that was tied up in there to the market, stay here to the MM2H program, and actually help our Malaysian economy. Because a foreigner moving here is the same as tourism. They spend outside money that they have out of Malaysia in Malaysia. I hope so. More of these foreigners are welcome wherever they may be from, right? And then yeah, that's my hope, and that's my rant. The reason I do this video because I saw some of my friends, my personal friends, who are educated and complaining about this thing from that perspective. Cheers.